Well, I'm not going to spend much time with this introduction. Hopefully you saw in the title, this is part number 2. So I'm going to give all the context and the background in the part number 1 video. I will put that link down below. So if you're watching this, on YouTube, just down in the description section, go there, watch part 1, and this all will make a whole lot more sense. So with that being said, let's get back to the module.
Welcome back to part number 2 here of Work Smarter, Not Harder College. In case somehow you missed it in the title, this is part 2, so make sure you go back and watch part 1. So with that being said, let's hop into the case studies. And what I want to do is add some real world feel to this. And by doing that, I want to, just like I said, really focus on the word flexibility. And I realize it's just that, a word, flexibility. So how can you kind of apply some feel to flexibility, assign some real worldness to it? That's why I want to bring in a little bit more assumptions, and that way you can kind of see where the cash flow situation would stand within each one of these case studies. So that should look familiar from the Big 5 percentage guide. So what we're going to go with for these final assumptions are shelter. We'll say, you know what, you want a nice place to live. I don't think that's anything wrong with that. So there's 30% there. Utilities, we'll split that difference, call it 7.5. Food and personal, once again, go split that in half, go 15% of the range. Transportation, that is going to be at 8%. You should know why that's 8%. Remember, this is all due to the fact that you will have student loan debt, and because you have an anchor leach debt such as student loan, that automatically puts you into treading water status. So the 8% is coming from the 5% plus the 3%. If you have jumped around and not done the vehicle payment section yet, that this will make sense when it gets to that. When you go through that video, you'll be like, okay, here's the treading water status. But for this case, again, because you do have a debt, because you do have an anchor leach. Now, granted, this is all going to be a well-devised anchor leach, but it's still an anchor leach, no doubt, or any way you look at it. So you still got to get it hammered out and squash it. So that's why that number is at 8%. And then insurance, once again, will meet in the middle there and go 12.5%. And then this is all going to just give us an idea of where the cash flow is going to stand after their survival spend items are all taken care of. And that's where the flexibility is coming from, because I probably should have bolded that word after. But after everything has been accounted for in terms of what you really need to kind of survive, the survival spend, where, how much money do you have left over? Pretty much that's kind of the moral of the story here. And not to insult your intelligence, but the more money you have left over, the more flexibility you're just going to have in general. Again, I'll say that again, even though hopefully I'm kind of insulting your intelligence, that, after you spend for all those survival things that you need, the more money that's just still sitting there, well, that money represents flexibility to do many things with. So again, stating the obvious, I realize, but that's how, that's how I'm going to try to quantify and assign a numerical value to the term flexibility. Because like I started off, I get it. Flexibility is just a word, but now we can kind of try to quantify that word. So we're going to kick all this off with Tom, and Tom wants to get a degree in psychology, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's done step 1, and he has determined that there's a realistic job demand for it. So upon doing some research, this is the current numbers right now. Remember, focus on the process. These numbers are always going to be changing, but at the time of this recording, you know how to, research and all that. But as far as the things are concerned right now, as I record this, psychology right there, $41,500, is going to be that median base salary. Now, the next thing here, very important, because all the numbers that you're going to come across are going to be salaries. But as far as what you take home, as far as what you put in your pocket with taxes and other different dynamics, that's not going to be what you see online and what you see on these lists. So you have to remember, as part of your research, to figure out what the take-home pay is going to be. So you can do that. There's all sorts of great calculators out there, and there's just an example of something that you could search for that, brought up the calculator that I'm going to be using for all these case studies, and that calculator is through Smart Asset. So let's go through and let's see where Tom stands with his psychology degree. So as we just determined, 41,500 is going to be, the number to look at. And then that gives you an estimated semi-monthly payment. So semi-monthly, meaning you're going to get 2 of these per month. So 2 payments, 2 paychecks for $1,370 each and every month. So let's see where Tom stands with the slab style strategy. Again, 2 paychecks valued at $1,370 per month makes the take-home pay per month at $2,740. So let's figure out the what's in it for me percentage. as you do your research, and like I said, right now we're just pretending that Tom's in his research phase right here. So Tom's got to think, all right, well, what's in it for me? What exactly, what would life look like in that situation? So he's got his $265 loan payment, which we calculated based on the assumptions discussed in part 1, and he's going to divide that by his take-home pay, $27.40, and that is going to give him the what's in it for me percentage. So within his research, Tom should be saying, all right, 9.7%. I should expect to see some, nice little numbers here as we progress forward. So let's just say shelter, and you run through these numbers. That's going to be 822, 206, 411, 219, and then insurance 343. So after all these survival spend type items are taken care of, so the money left after the big 5. So after, remember, we're going to start to focus on flexibility here. He's got $739 left. Now, there's still one more cost left, that anchor leech. And that anchor leech is costing $265 per month, meaning at the end of the day, he has $474 of positive monthly cash flow. So there we go. That is some flexibility. Now, you may be thinking, well, I don't know. Places, houses in my area or, rentals in my area, they go for a lot more than $800. Well, there you go. You have some flexibility. You have some money right there that you could grab from to put towards that category of shelter. Maybe you're thinking, transportation, I'd be driving a little bit more, so that transportation cost might be more like $319. So you need $100 more. Well, hey, there you go. You have a pot of money that you can reach in and grab $100 more for that. And so on and so forth. Hopefully you can see the flexibility. You have that pot of money there. Now, let's keep things focused. And now, if you're a high school student and you're watching this and you haven't gone through the entire course, you're not going to know what I'm talking about here, and that's fine. But, as a whole, let's think about what's going on. You have that debt destroyer roadmap. A part of that roadmap is the scouting report, right? So we'll just assume that this is the only anchor debt that you have. On that scouting report, you're going to have one item written right there at the top, your student loan payment. So therefore, you need to go into the attack protocol. You need to go into attack mode and apply the attack sequence that is talked about, during that video that you should have already watched because you've gone through these in order. So that's where the majority of that money should be going. Now, yes, if you need to put it here or there, that's fine. But that's also the point of flexibility. At least you have money to put here or there. Now, of course, maybe insurance isn't going to cost $343. Maybe that's going to be $250. But you know what? Let's say everything else keeps the same and insurance is actually only $250. Well, inject the boot. Again, if you're a high school student, you have no idea what I mean by inject the boot. But if you're not, then you know exactly what I mean. So if one of those categories is actually less, then yeah, inject the boot, go into beast mode as far as those attack sequences are concerned, and then you can add that much more to the positive cash flow and get rid of this debt as quick as possible. Because it is a debt, it is an anchor leech debt, and you got to get it out of the picture ASAP because you have other things you need to do. What are those other things you need to do? You got to get the money garden started. And you can't get the money garden started until all these anchor leeches are out of the way. And I say all, but ideally, this is going to be the only one that you need to focus on. So if you focus on it with just intense firepower, bring in all kinds of artillery, then you can destroy it. And you can destroy it very, very quickly. And the quicker you can destroy it is going to depend on what? The more positive cash flow that you have sitting there. So not only does it promote flexibility, that number that you're looking at, it's also promoting and it's also giving you a gauge of just how fast you can actually crush the debt and get it wiped away. Because you got to get on to better and you got to get on to better things. You got to get that Millionaire Money Garden started. Because the sooner you can get that Millionaire Money Garden started, at that point, especially if it's, you're right out of college or whatever, and it takes you a little bit of time, you're still at a situation, and you saw the numbers, where you could be at a situation, though, where it's not even, well, if I get $1 million, it would be how many $1 millions am I going to have? But before you get there, for the reasons we've already discussed, you got to get this debt wiped away. And that positive number that we're looking at, remember, not only is showing flexibility, but it's showing the capability for you to really wipe and crush this anchor leech out of the picture. So high school students, all right, you can kind of zone back in. I realize I'm just talking gibberish for there, but, or who knows, maybe like, what are you talking about? Artillery fire, injecting boots? What? Maybe I caught go back and watch everything else. I assure you, it's not a boring. I'm still a child at heart. So in my mind, so that's the way I comprehend things with leeches and needles and boots and artillery, barbed wire fences, fortresses, hills, beachheads. If any of that, sugar, if you like sugar, then give it a try. I mean, there's lots of analogies. So if I can pique your interest to want to go through this entire course, start back at video 1, then those are all the types of things you're going to learn about. But back to talking to the general crowd here, whether you've watched other stuff or not, just keep in mind, that's what that number is really representing, that the cash flow number. But Clay, brand name matters. Okay, maybe it doesn't, but I'll humor you. So let's go with the brand name among brand names, Harvard. I'm assuming that's the biggest assumption that I can make in terms of a school that people have probably heard of, Harvard. So let's also say that by getting a psychology degree from Harvard, Tom can increase his salary by 50%. Now, I'm not going to turn this into an economics course, but things are called a job market for a reason. A market has everything to do with supply and demand. Markets are efficient. There are ways and dynamics and things in motion that make a market efficient. So would I be lying to say that if Tom goes to Harvard, he would get 0% more salary? Yeah, that would be a lie. That would be misleading. So I'm not saying that Tom wouldn't get more salary because he's got a degree from Harvard. He would. He definitely would. Now, some jobs, and this is what I mean by market, would sit there and say, I don't think we can hire you, Todd, because you're worth more than what we can actually afford to pay you, because we're on a budget, Tom, and our budget is not going to allow for us to hire you because I would say you are overqualified. So in some arguments you can make that Tom might actually shrink his job market because a lot of people are going to just say, sorry, man, you're overqualified. Or Tom may just have to, in other words, how a market works, settle for what the going market rate is. Because if companies give budgets of a certain amount, if municipalities, for a school council, for example, give budgets of certain amounts for this position, then sorry, Tom, this is what we are allowed to spend. This is what the company, this is what the higher uppers have handed down that we can use to hire your position. Sorry, Tom, this is what the school board, the school whoever has handed down to us as a line item in our budget that we can use to hire your position. Yeah, you're probably overqualified, but if you're willing to work for that, then it is what it is. So that's what I mean by markets being efficient, is it reaches a point where a market is just going to pay what it's going to pay no matter what you get. Again, can Tom leverage and give him an ideal situation where he can get a little bit more? Sure, a little bit more, 10% more, 20% more, 30, okay, maybe 30. Like I said, there's a ceiling though. This is economics. And I do have a minor in economics, so I got to be careful because I don't want to turn this into an economics course and have people falling asleep. But my point here is that a salary increase by 50% is more than generous on my part. Like I said in the vehicle, and like I said in the insurance, life insurance part, I just don't want anybody to be able to point a finger at me and say, "Oh, the Clay guy, that slab method, yeah, all those numbers, all those things he did." He was manipulating those numbers in his favor. He was manipulating those numbers to make his point. I don't want anybody to be able to accuse me of that. So that's why I want to err on the side of, trying to give the numbers the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in many other ways, as you're about to see. But we'll start off with that by just saying he can get actually 50% more. So in other words, his salary is going to be $62,250. And get ready. Went to the Harvard website, took that straight off of it. Those are the numbers. Yeah, a total per year of $50,420. Or in other words, that totals $201,680 for the degree. Now here's more where I'm going to give the numbers the benefit of the doubt. Think back to our assumptions for that $265. We took the community college, we took the 4-year, and then we added in that 50% for kind of just the random other cost. Do you remember doing that? Hopefully you do, because I promise you we did. So we added in these external costs to try to just factor things in. We're not going to do that here. The number we're looking at there is just tuition and fees. We're not factoring in any sort of any other, numbers like we did earlier. So there's another way where I'm trying to err on the side, give these numbers the benefit of the doubt. And then let's also assume this. Let's give these numbers more of a benefit of the doubt. You go into absolutely insane beast mode and you actually bring the loan down to $150,000. So over those 4 years, you make $51,000. So you are just no social life at all. All you do is work, and you're able to bring that number down to, like I said, 150. So there we go. Nobody can accuse me of manipulating the numbers in my favor so that it fits my argument. None of that is going on. So there is our monthly calculator. We have our numbers all put into place. And when all that is said and done, the numbers put in their favor. I am not manipulating things. If anything, I'm being way too unrealistic in the opposite direction. Monthly payment, $1,590.98. And if you think these numbers aren't real, please don't take my word for it. Go and look at the cost of these brand name schools. It was actually pretty fun. I looked at Stanford. Stanford's pretty well known. I think they were, if I remember right, $49,000 a year. I looked at Villanova, and I think Villanova was the most expensive, but they didn't have they're not the Harvard, right? Everybody's heard of Harvard. But Villanova, I think because they're private, Harvard might be private too. Regardless, Villanova, though, was like $52,000 a year. So, yeah, go out. It's very fun to just search around, look at the admission departments, and then find the financial part, and then you just start to look at all these numbers. But, yeah, go take my word for it. So let's keep on going. So Tom got his brand name degree. And again, smart asset that got his salary up to $62,250 a year. His semi-monthly payments are right there at $1,963. So let's see where things go up because he actually went off the path. He did not follow the slab method. So his take-home pay, let's figure out that number, is at $3,926. So his what's in it for me percentage, $1,591 loan payment divided by his take-home pay equals 40.5%. So we'll go through this. Shelter, $1,178. Utilities, $295. Food and personal, $589. Transportation, $314. Insurance, $491. So the money left after all of this within his budget, $1,059. Oh, wait, there's still one more cost that he needs. And that cost is right there. And remember what we just talked about. I'm not going to go through that all again. I don't want to beat that dead horse, but remember how flexibility is being defined. We got to squash this anchor leech. So, what does this number that you're about to see mean in terms of squashing that anchor leech and squashing it, destroying it, firing artillery at it in a very quick amount of time? Remember what this number you're about to see means towards all that. $532 negative monthly cash flow. So in the previous example, I said, so maybe shelter, you need a little bit more money for that. Now the exact opposite is happening. Shelter, well, I'm at negative. So shelter, that number is going down. Okay, that'll bring down the shelter utility. So that helps a little bit. Transportation's probably needs to go down. Food and personal, that definitely needs to go down. But when things need to start to go down because you got to make up for that negative cash flow, that's not a good spot. That is called being debt ridden. That is called being weighed down by debt. That is called being crippled by debt. And these statistics are all over the place where people are having to stay at home and having to live in people's basements and having to, they can't afford to invest. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford to do this. And this is why, because the path that they choose, which again, all this can be done before you choose to go down that path. That is the whole idea of this, is this should all be done beforehand. And if you're seeing numbers like this where it's just putting you in negative cash flow or barely positive cash flow, you've been warned. And if you still choose to go down, well, it's for the experience. Yeah, okay, well, have fun. Have fun for the quote-unquote experience for the next 70 years of your life, okay? I hope that 4-year experience is worth the next. Well, then again, with the medical technology, you'll probably live like another 90 years. So I hope the next 90 years is just as good as experience as you're trying to get all this stuff cleaned up. So, I'm trying not to rant, Clay. Calm down. But just here you go. You have these numbers, and I assure you, negative numbers are going to make things very, very difficult, because when you, and forget about even trying to go gung-ho and, fire the artillery and clean this debt up in a quick amount of time. You're just trying to figure out how to pay the bills. So I hope that piece of paper is worth it. Because, well, first off, I don't even know how you're going to afford the frame to frame it, because you don't have any money. You're at negative cash flow. There's no way you're going to be able to nail it into the wall. You're going to be renting because you can't afford a mortgage. What bank is going to approve somebody when they show them these sorts of numbers? Nobody. So you're going to be renting. So hopefully your landlord has a policy of letting you nail things into their walls, because that diploma, I hope it was worth it. So let's just move on to somebody else's journey. So let's talk about Tammy's slab journey. So good. Tammy's going to go back to using the slab journey, and she runs a search for something like this, degrees with the best job outlook. And she comes across something, Kiplinger, who's a very name brand out there, and 10 best college majors for a lucrative career. I should have underlined this, but who's saying this quote, but take note, Lydia Frank, pay scale vice president. So pay scale, basically just understand what she's saying here is coming from somebody who's literal job. She's overseeing a company that just looks at pay. What does that pay? What does that pay? What does that career field pay? What does that trade pay? What does that skill pay? That's her job. Pay scale is what she's coming from. So she is knee deep in all sorts of data. She is knee deep in all sorts of statistics about payment. And what does she have to say? Not all college degrees are created equal, but yet they all charge the same amounts of money. Now, they all charge different, but all degrees are not equal, meaning you can go and pay $100,000 for a degree that is just terrible, or you can pay $100,000 degree for something that is actually a little bit better. Now, $100,000 obviously is not, but the point here being, not everything is created equal. And again, who is the source of that? Somebody that is knee deep in the data and statistics about all these different, payments and pay scales, or I guess pun intended, all the different pay scales that are available out there. So here we go. These are the results of her journey, or of her search, as she's on her journey, as she's doing her research. Now, remember, she got a list of 10, because that was the name of the article, the 10 best, but these are kind of the 4 that caught her eye the most. So business administration. Step 1, she looks down at projected job growth. So not only is there job demand right now, but in the future, there's, it's still projected to be growing, and that there's still going to be projected to have job growth, because obviously she's got 4 years before she's going to even enter the labor force. So yeah, it'd be good if there's over the next 10 years that there's still growth possible. So that's, step 1 completed. Step 2 up there. All right, starting salary, $46,300. Mechanical engineering. Once again, step 1, projected job growth. All right, not quite as good as business administration, but hey, there is still job demand, and over the next 10 years, it's still projected to grow, and that's always a good thing. Shrinking, job growth areas, not something that is very encouraging. Starting salary, $64,000. And then management information systems kind of catches her eye. Step 1, oh wow, 17.9%. That really catches her eye. Starting salary, okay, $57,900. And then nursing, step 1, projected job growth, all right, 17.2%. Okay, solid. And then starting salary, $58,200. So she does a little bit more research on all these. She does a little bit more digging. She does maybe some asking around. Maybe she does some job shadowing. Maybe, she does her research though, and she's figuring out kind of what really catches her eye. And at the end of the day, this whole management information systems just really caught her eye. She thought it was interesting, the different kind of pathways she can go within that degree field. It made sense to her. It seemed like that would be something she could, really pursue and really do well at. And then, if anything, she could take that income and then maybe pursue some of her other hobbies or whatever that we already talked about in part 1. But yeah, bottom of the line, that was going to be her final decision. So once again, let's run through the numbers here. Using our take-home calculator at $57,900, her estimated semi-monthly payments, $1,843. So using the slab style strategy, let's see where things stand for. So we now know how to determine that. And her take home pay is $3,686. So her loan payment, $265 divided by her take home. And that's going to give us the what's in it for me percentage. And in this situation, 7.2. All right. Let's run through some numbers. So shelter, $1,106. 276, 553, 295, and then 461. So the money left after, those survival spends have been completed, $995. But remember, we still got to take out that one final cost, and that cost being our investment cost, $265. So here we go. Remember, hopefully I've done my job right, and you understand the importance of and what this number is truly representing. Oh yeah, there we go. $730 of positive cash flow. There we go. Sign me up, coach. That's a nice number. Can we all agree that's a nice number? Can we all agree that we see the massive flexibility in that number? Can we all agree that we just see how quickly this anchor leech debt could be destroyed by having that sort of extra cash flow? I mean, that'd be awesome, especially if you're right out of college, you're still single, your insurance payment's not going to be $461. So, I mean, you could probably, who knows? Let's just say it's still $300, which is still pretty high. So that's only $300. So that gives you now $161 more to add into your positive cash flow, which then you can devote to just stomping and crushing this anchor leech. I mean, and if you're single and you're about food and personal, I mean, maybe you love to eat like at fine dining, but I mean, especially if you go into it with the mindset of which we talk about, if I want to destroy that debt, let's say you get the food and personal category down to, let's just say that's $400 a month. Well, there's another $153 that you could pour into this positive cash flow and then use that to inject the boot and just start crushing. So, I mean, flexibility is the name of the game. And when you're looking at $730 of positive monthly cash flow, you can stomp that debt out in a hurry. So get to it. Now, the next factor, prestigious, but to who? Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's a prestigious college. And it kind of falls into the brand name category to an extent. But people fall into the mind trap of, well, I'm going to pay for a little bit more of that because that's prestigious. But this is what I like to call the local trap, meaning when there's, in the general area, there's some sort of private school that have a prestigious appeal to them, which is true. Wherever you may live, you may think of a school and be like, oh, yeah, that's prestigious. And it very well may be prestigious, but it doesn't really matter. And I'll explain what I mean by that here in a second. But I'm telling you right now, it's a complete optical illusion, as you'll see here. I'll tell you right now, employers care about your skill and work ethic. And I am an employer myself. I have, I don't run a massive corporation, but I have hired people. I will leave it at that. I have hired people, and I assure you, I never once asked, where is your degree from? I looked at them in terms of their work ethic, their skill, could they get the job done? And I assure you that I am not some sort of like savant, some sort of genius that, wow, Clay has discovered the holy grail of hiring. He actually looks at people that work hard and that have a skill to get the job done. Wow, that's mind-blowing. Obviously, that's not the case, right? I am not anything special as an employer. I just have a little common sense. I want somebody that works hard and gets the job done. Whoa, pretty mind-blowing, huh? So that's what, this is already, and I'm kind of still poking the bear of the brand name thing, because these are one and the same, almost prestigious, but it's not really prestigious because it's just, you think it's prestigious because it's local. But point here being, this is what employers care about. And when you do, and you're going to accomplish both of these. So you're going to take care of both of these attributes via two things you'll do. It's not going to be you sitting in, which reminds me, and which I'll talk about right now. The other great investment that you can make, buy some used books online, do some searching around on the search engines about how to interview well, how to, conduct yourself in an interview. But here's 3 things that you can do without even buying a book. Smile. Smile. That costs $0. Smile, look the person in the eye, and give them a firm handshake. Now, I'm not saying try to break their hand, but I'm also saying don't give them a little limp noodle handshake. And this goes for both male and female. Nice, firm handshake while you smile, while you look them in the eye. Right there, you're going to give yourself a nice little advantage over a lot of these people. And oh yeah, don't show up in flip-flops. Don't show up with food all over your clothes. Don't show up in shorts. Dress however, it applies. I mean, do those 3 things plus kind of the thing, just dress like you should, you're going to give yourself a way bigger advantage over anybody that's got some degree from either a brand name or some supposedly prestigious school. Plus, do a little bit more research, invest, for pennies on the dollar with some used books, or head to the library, get some books on how to conduct yourself within an interview. There you go. There you go. I'm telling you right now, as an employer myself that has employed and that employs people, that is what I care about. Your skill, work ethic, and you will get a notch up if you just look me in the eye, give me a nice firm handshake, and smile. Pretty crazy stuff, huh? And none of this cost gobs and gobs and gobs amount of money. So just smile. You're off to a good start. But how are we going to actually achieve this? Because, it's one thing to read a bunch of books, to smile, to shake somebody's hand, to be dressed nice, to give them a firm handshake. That's all great stuff, and I want you to do that. But then you sit there and say, I'm a hard worker. I work hard. And then they kind of look and, okay. But if you do the slab method, guess what's going to be on your resume? Well, you're going to be working, and you're going to be working very, very hard. So right on your resume, they're going to say, oh, wow, this person's worked. Oh, nice. They worked while they were in school. They worked, and while they were taking, just courses, they worked and worked. But remember, slab method, and I'm telling you right now, you're also going to do a great job at it. Why are you going to do a great job at your work? Because then you're going to be going and getting referral letters from your bosses. So, every summer, you're going to, obviously at some point, they understand it's a part-time job. You're doing what it is. You're going to say, hey, I'm getting ready to graduate. It's time for interviews. I've worked with you for fill in the blank. Could you please write me some sort of referral letter? And you can ask that with full confidence because you know that you've been working hard. You know that you've done a great job at the job. Now, obviously, if you're just a total slacker, you're terrible, you're not going to probably be able to get a referral letter because your boss will look at you and be like, where are the hidden cameras? Am I in some sort of like prank show right now? But no, you are part of the slab method. Not only are you going to work those hours, but you're going to work those hours and actually work them. You're going to do a great job at it. So then you can go ask your employer, hey, can I get some referral letters? So as you're being interviewed and as you're talking, this is how you align talk with walk, right? It's one thing to say all the right things, but it's another thing to do all the right things. And when you do a good job, when you show that you can work, then you're going to have referral letters on top of this. And my personal story with this is when I interviewed for an internship with Honeywell, and Honeywell's a big old corporation, but I interviewed for an internship, which eventually turned into a job, which is pretty common among internships. Usually they'll offer you a job. But I interviewed against, I think 17 other people, 16, I think. Point being, there was a lot of people. This was not because it was within my major, the engineering major at Ohio State. There were many people that went for it because it was one of the first people that moved in because there was a government clearance involved. So it was like they interviewed you like right at the beginning of the year because the government clearance research took like 6-7 months. So that way that by the summertime rolled around, you'd ideally have your clearance. So my point is, because it was up front, like nobody else had an internship yet. So everybody's like, well, I don't have an internship yet. We might as well all just pile in here. So everybody piled in, and there was like 16 of us, 17 of us. And I'm not kidding, in college, I worked, I found a university job, which was really cool because you could show up whenever, as long as you got your job done. So that there was huge flexibility. But then I also, I started my own little thing, and I sold books, and that's a whole another side story. But I put that on my resume that I sold books, and I put some revenue figures. And, the revenue figures were actually pretty impressive for some college student that is going to school, that is working this other job. And then, wait, he runs a business? He did what in revenue? And the first thing when I sat down, the first thing is had nothing to do with engineering. It had nothing to do with, they looked at me and they said, tell me about this book business. And both of the guys were just like looking at me like, what the heck? And can you guess what? I got that job interview, or I got that internship. And guess what? I already said this, but I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. I work hard. I will outwork you, or I will do my best to outwork you. I am competitive, so I'll say that. But I am by no means that I have the best GPA in my, my engineering, subset. By no means did I graduated with less than a 3.0. And I by no means had As far as grades, I mean, was I like borderline flunking out? No. But was I at the top, the cream of the crop as far as everybody else in my class? No, absolutely not. There were people way, way smarter than I was, way smarter. And I got the internship over them. And I was not like second choice or third choice. I was the first choice. I got it. And although they never said it, I'm convinced that it was because they looked at my resume, and I don't remember. I don't know. Are you supposed to put GPAs on a resume? I don't know. It's been a while. But if they could easily have gotten my GPA. I mean, that's not a hard thing. They just would, hey, we're interested in these 3 people. Can you give us their transcripts? Can you give us all their, I mean, they have access to that information. So whether or not they looked at it, I don't know. But if they did, apparently they didn't really care. But when I sat down, was as nervous could be, my first ever interview, and they both looked at me, tell us about this book business. And from there it went. And the other good thing about working while you're in school, you get experience. And I use that time and time again. I kept bringing up, give us something like this. And I would go back to the book business because, in kind of poker, they showed me their hands. And I realized really quickly they were fascinated by this book business thing. So I brought it up several times in the interview. But the point is, when you're out there and working, that can actually help you in the interview too, because maybe you have an experience at your job, which is always good to bring up because you're reminding these people, hey, I worked while I got this degree, and while I worked, I had this situation, and if that situation can help you answer a question, you're putting on a very good interview. You're showing these people that you have work ethic, that you have skill, that you can maybe think outside the box, and that you can actually make yourself obtainable. And none of this has to do with anything about the degree that you have. None of it. So just keep that in mind. And I probably went off a little bit more, but I did want to talk about the importance of just having the total package and why the SLAB method is focused on, yes, of course, working helps you mathematically. Mathematically, it helps you. But from a practical perspective, there is a whole ton of value that comes from working because you can get it on your resume. You can get those referral letters. I had referral letters from the people on campus. They loved me. And there's another funny story I'm thinking about. Yeah, I'll tell it real quick. I'm sorry. So I had the book business. And then I actually worked at the library. That was one of the jobs that I got. And I'll never remember this, but I walked into work one day. My bosses, who... this sounds conceited, but they liked me. They enjoyed me because I worked hard. I got it done. I smiled. I had conversation. I was just kind of a normal, polite human being, but I worked hard, so they liked me. And they were distraught. I like, yeah, you got to go up I don't know who they were, like the head of libraries at Ohio State. It was some super high up person. They want to see you. And just know, Clay, that we stood up for you and we told them we count every single book that comes in here. We have our inventory system in place, and there's never been a discrepancy in the numbers. So just know, Clay, that when you go in there, we've already told them that there's never been a single number out of place. So at this point, I'm thinking, what the? So I go up, I sit there in this big old office, and I'm looking around. It feels like a Hollywood movie. And I'm looking around. And it's like a nice office. And this lady comes in, and I don't know who she is. She's high up in the chain as far as the library. And she's like, so can you tell me about this book business? And then it finally clicked. It's, oh, crap. I put that on my resume. And that resume is somehow circulated through. And the resume, like I said, had revenue numbers on it. So somehow or another, it got that, wait a second. And it actually makes sense. I don't blame him. I'm not offended. But here's this guy who runs a book selling business doing numbers like that, and he works at the library. Really? But she's just, I told her about it. I shared how it worked, and that was that, and nothing more ever came from it. But because, like I said, the job I worked at was like, there was inventory management systems in place where books were counted by not just me, but by multiple people to ensure that, things like this weren't happening where books were coming up listening. So it made sense to me then why I sat down, why my bosses had told me, don't worry, we told them that there's never been a discrepancy in the numbers ever while you've worked here. So that part made sense because, they knew that I wasn't stealing anything. But so that's just kind of one of those side stories. But my point here is get out there and work, because not only is it helping you out mathematically speaking, it's giving you good life experiences. That's that's a story I tell people, and usually I get people to just kind of, I think some people don't believe me, and that's fine. It sounds kind of like Hollywood-ish, but I would have never had that experience if I didn't go out there and work. So you have mathematical math where it can help you out. You have practical math where just working math or working hours, which is numbers, which is math, is going to help you out when it comes to things like a job interview. So yeah, I went off on a tangent there, but the point here, and what I really hope to sink in, is they don't care. Be a good human being. Work hard. Not only tell them you're a hard worker, show them you're a hard worker by giving them the jobs you've worked at and then referral letters. You can do that. Bam. You got it. So here's the thing. A local place by where I grew up, they wanted me to play football for them, but a very small school, but prestigious. Ohio Northern University. Small school, private school, the air of prestige. Oh, Ohio Northern. Well, there's their cost right there at Ohio Northern. And they knew when they were telling me, hey, we'd like you to play football for us. Oh, you want to do engineering? Hey, we have an engineering department. Now, granted, these costs were not, I think it was like 28-ish, 29 back in 2002 is when I graduated high school. So 2002-ish, I think they were around like 28, 29, I think. Don't quote me on that. But point being, it was still expensive. And I had my moron moments, but this is definitely one of the things where I played it right. But yeah, so we'd like you to come play football for the Ohio Northern University. We have an engineering department. Lots of other these small schools, they're liberal arts schools, so they don't even have, studies such as engineering, but we do. And, we'd like you to come and play. So there's the numbers right there. Translation cost for that degree, $147,240. But let's assume that, beast mode is done. Maybe there's some financial aid because, to be fair, okay, we'd like for you to come play football, so we'll give you some financial aid. So because smaller schools, I can't just give full-blown athletic scholarships, so there's no way that could have ever been totally paid for. Now, if it could have been totally paid for, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's a whole different equation. But with the way the rules and regulations are set up now and they were back then, these smaller schools, sure, they can do financial aid packages as kind of scholarships, but they don't pay for the entire thing. So let's say that actually brought things down to $100,000. So there are the numbers right there. And real quick, let me ask you, have you ever heard of Ohio Northern University? I would not be shocked if people who live in Ohio have not heard of them. I mean, sure, if you're around the general area, oh, Ohio Northern, yeah, nice, small, private school, Ohio Northern. Yeah, you're probably, nope, I've never heard of them. Have you ever heard of Kelvin? Kelvin. Here in West Michigan, where I live right now, Grand Rapids area, Kelvin is, oh, wow, you go to Kelvin. Remember that medieval major that was, what was that, like 35,000, whatever that was? That was Kelvin. And right here, and if you're watching this course and you live in the West Michigan area, I am sure that you have heard of Kelvin. I assure you, when I grew up in Northwest Ohio and was doing my college search, never once did I ever consider Kelvin. I didn't even know Kelvin existed. But they do, and around here, there is that perceived prestige of it. Total optical illusion. I already went off probably longer than I should have on what an employer actually cares about. So just don't fall for this trap of either brand name or thinking that some sort of local prestige is going to care. Because again, have you ever heard of Ohio Northern? Probably not. Yet the payment there at $100,000, $1,060.66. But in this situation, all right, I'll go mechanical engineering. So starting salary of $64,000. So is the loss of flexibility worth the prestige? That's what you really need to ask yourself, because that is what it essentially boils down to. So we'll go through this. You're getting used to seeing it. Smart asset calculator, figure out the take-home pay. Again, you're getting all that, $2,011 twice per month. So let's see where things stand if you kind of allow the local trap illusion to get in your way. So it pulls you off the path. There's kind of this illusion out there, and you walk off the slab method. That's going to take your take-home pay to $4,022, which is solid, right? I mean, at least the degree field was a good choice. But So let's figure out what's in it for me percentage. 1,061 divided that by that take-home pay. What's in it for me percentage? 26%. All right, well, let's see where things stand. So you go through these numbers, and you're getting an idea of where things would stand. And that means that money left after the big five is $1,085. Hey, there we go. There we go. Oh, wait a second. There's that loan payment. Oh, wait a second. It's $1,061. $24 positive cash flow. So are you just like riddled in debt? Are you totally weighed down? I would argue yes, but numerically speaking, hey, you do still have positive cash flow. And yeah, could you increase that by maybe, well, I'm not going to have $500 in insurance. That's probably going to be $300. So yeah, can you bump that up? But I mean, you're starting at $24. It'd be nice if you could at least start at that number a little bit higher. Wouldn't you agree? So I'm not saying that it is game over. I'm not saying that, oh man, if you choose now the Harvard path, that was pretty much game over. That's a nasty situation. Is this situation just nasty? I'm not saying that, but can we all agree there's a pretty big loss of flexibility because of the school that was chosen? So let's just I was curious. What if we applied the slab method to this? So if we did apply the slab method to go get that same engineering degree, and remember, we've already had the job market discussion, so we won't go down that path, but at that point, we know that the slab method has you right around $265. So instead of a $1,061 payment, if you bring that down to $265, what's that going to do? Holy smokes. How nice would it be to start from $820? Again, insurance at $500, especially if you're just single out of college, you're not going to have insurance at $500. Let's call it $300. So to add $200 more to $24 or $200 more to $820, do you see the power of why you want that cash flow as positive as possible? Again, 24, yeah, you're not going to be screwed in this situation. You'll still have some flexibility, but you'll have so much more flexibility if you go the slab method. Well, Clay, you even admitted you'd get a little bit more. Okay, fine. You'll get a little bit more. Let's say you start off positive at $124, $224. You're still way below where you would be had you chosen to make your loan payment only $265 instead of that $1,061. So sure, maybe the income, the take-home pay drops a little bit in the slab money payment, but compared to what that loan payment would be, it still doesn't make sense to go this route. So really it boils down to this. I mean, if you still want to just lose that flexibility, maybe they'll give you a coffee mug that says something like that on it, because that's kind of essentially what's occurred here. So if you're happy with I got this coffee mug for overpaying for my college education, perfect. Then go for it. Now we're going to talk a little bit more steroids, and we're going to inject the slab style with steroids. And you're going to think I'm making this stuff up, but no, this is not a joke. And I illustrate this, and to really assign realness to it, I'm going to use a true story that is well underway. Little background, I already talked about, I guess, part one. My wife and I, we used to help with the youth group at church, and one of the members who we helped when they were in college, when they were in high school, who are now in college, is Sydney. And we'll just leave it on a first name basis. And now I can't say for sure that this is what she actually did. So I don't know if she did this, but someone was definitely chirping in her ear. And I know her parents, they go to the same church as us. And I can say right now that they are a great example of how when parents who actually parent can create great situations. I want to say that once more, and I don't say this in a lecturing fashion. I say this talking to myself too, as I am a parent who is going to have 4 kids, eventually grow up and reach this age. So again, not in a lecture situation, but talking to myself here. But she is a great example of how parents who actually parent, who actually advise, who actually kind of lay down the law can create great situations. So what is this right here? So I don't know if she actually ran this search, but somewhere it came to her mind, high demand 2-year degrees. 2-year degree job growth, couple ideas. And for Sydney, she landed on this one right here. So from the United States Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, a dental hygienist. And like I said, don't take my word for it. Get out there, do your research, figure out what these numbers are. So looking at the job growth for the next 10 years, 20%. And then in parentheses, much faster than average. Well, step 1, Sydney, well done. There is clearly job not only demand for it, but there's going to be job growth for it. And then step 2, look at that pay. Holy smokes. Did you say 2-year degree? is again, don't take my word for it. Say, you know what, this Clay guy, he's manipulating the numbers. They don't exist. Hey, you have a search engine. You have the internet. Go check. Go see what numbers are with these other things. $72,910 per year. Now, starting salary, probably. I mean, this is not saying starting pay, but we're not going to use that number. We're going to drop that $13,000 all the way down to $60,000 for our example with Sydney when she comes out. So $60,000. That's the number we're going to run with. So a little bit more context. Like I said, this is a true story. It is unfolding as I speak. Sydney goes to a local community college right here in Grand Rapids Community College. No, they have not paid me for this. I'm not affiliated. So I think those are all disclosures out of the way. It is what it is. I know she has at least 2 jobs that I know of. Freddy's, if you've never been there and you have one locally, I'd say test them out. And babysitting, which my wife and I both have firsthand experience with. I'd probably say more negative than positive because we've tried to book her multiple times and she's already booked. And again, this goes to show when you do a good job at something, you create this thing called demand. And when you have demand for you and your services, guess what? You get that much more demand because you have word of mouth marketing. People start talking, hey, do you know any good babysitters? Oh yeah, we've used Sydney before. All right, well now all of a sudden somebody else wants to use Sydney. So when you do a good job at whatever you're doing, now sure, that doesn't translate perfectly to Freddy's, but it does in the sense of when Sydney, it's time for her to start doing her job interviews. Hey, boss at Freddy's, I've been doing a great job for you. Would you be willing to write me a referral letter as I go and start to do job interviews for my degree that I've been working on? There you go. And if Sydney ever came to me, I don't know if, I would gladly write her a referral letter as a babysitter, somebody that I entrusted my kids with. I've done this before for other former youth group members where, hey, Clay, actually twofold. One, when they're trying to get into college, I've wrote referral letters, and then even for jobs. Mainly, I think just for I don't know, I might have done one for a guy before. I don't know. Point here, I know I've done it for girls because I know my spiel is always, hey, my wife and I, we're pretty picky. We don't entrust our kids to just anybody. But yet what we used, if I were to write one for Sydney, we've used Sydney multiple times. We haven't used her as much as we wanted because she's always booked. I would definitely make sure that the employer knows that because that helps them understand that, oh, wow, there's other people that clearly feel this way. So I would probably word it in a way that kind of sets up a little, make it sound like she's bad. My only negative experience with Sydney is she's never available because everybody else is always trying to use her. So my point is she's out there, she's doing the slab method without even knowing because she's got jobs and she's doing well at those jobs. And I can personally attest the babysitting job because, like I said, she's always booked. And she's also taking advantage of the opportunity to live at home. So she saves a lot of money on room and board. But to be fair, I realize not everybody has that opportunity. So we won't even factor that into the numbers. But, just if you do have that opportunity, please realize it is an opportunity because not everybody has that choice. And then right here, this is flat out from Grand Rapids Community College, their website. So I really shout out to them. I'm not affiliated, but hey, for their transparency, well done. But before I show it, a little side note, Grand Rapids GRCC is actually one of the more expensive community colleges. So we used those numbers earlier, and they are definitely above average. So they are on the above average spectrum of things. So just keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the numbers, that all of this is coming from something that's actually above average in cost as far as tuition for a community college. But right there, straight off their website, a great breakdown of everything. So School of Workforce Development Dental Hygiene Program. That's nice. School of Workforce Development. And that's what a lot of community colleges do. They're there to let's get in, let's get things done, and let's keep things moving. And you can see right down there, you're more than welcome to pause and go through it all. But right there, estimated program total, $25,897. So right there, if you can't see it, that is the number. Now, Sydney is a beast. She's busting her tail. So the number here that I'm giving is actually probably too conservative, but we'll just aim on the high side of things as far as her loan payment is concerned. But let's go $15,000. Again, she's a monster, and I mean that as a compliment. So that number is probably still too high, but we'll just go with that. Because again, Clay, you're manipulating the numbers. No manipulation here. We'll keep it high. So what is her monthly payment going to be like? All right. $159. So my point here, if you want to, take that slab style, take that slab strategy and kind of inject it with some steroids, 2-year degrees can be hidden gems as far as efficiency is concerned. 2-year degrees can be hidden gems efficiency-wise, and don't take my word for it. Do a little research. You will see exactly what I mean. You have the process. You know how to work with the numbers to give you ballpark, to give you broad estimations, and go check out what is available. Again, times change. So I'm not saying that dental hygiene is the golden ticket right now. As of the recording, I would say dental hygienist. If one of my girls, which I have 3 of them, were getting up towards this age, I would say, hey, why don't you go job shadow a dental hygienist, see how you feel about that, see what you think, because wow, that would be a nice choice to be making as far as creating a solid income source for yourself. So let's finish out these numbers as far as slab style steroid results. 60,000 per year, like I said, those numbers that we saw were actually above there, but starting out, she's, down around, we got to subtract things out. So estimated right there, 1901. So an injection of steroids into the slab style strategy, what's this going to result in? Well, take home pay of 3804. And look at that, beautiful. 159 loan payment divided by that take home pay. What's in it for me percent? 4.2. Oh yes, sign me up, coach. We'll go through these numbers and you'll see how they play out. So there you go. So money left after the big 5, $1,027. Okay, well, there's still that anchor leech. There's still that cost that we have to have subtracted out. So subtract out the 159. Holy smokes, $868 positive monthly cash flow. And again, think about this. When Sydney graduates, it's not even a 4-year program. So I think Grand Rapids Community College, it might be 2.5 years. So they're a little bit above. A lot of them will have 2-year program. Let's just round up to 3. Let's say it's actually a 3-year program instead of a 2-year degree. So Sydney's out at age 21 with $868 of cash flow at age 21. And is she really going to need a shelter that much? She's not going to be paying that much in insurance. So let's just say it's $300 in insurance. So that's $176 more. Food and personal. I know Sydney, and she's not. It's not like she needs to be required to go out to fine dining all the time. And I need my crab cakes, and I need my what's the fish eggs? My caviar. I need my caviar. None of that. The point here is she has so much flexibility. It's going to be coming out of her ears. I don't know if this is what she's going to plan to do. But if she, if she wants to just knock out all of that, wow. Imagine how quick you can pay off that with just a laser focused plan. And then let's just say it takes her, let's just say 3 years. It wouldn't, but 3 years. So at age 24, she is debt free and she has just that much more positive cash flow. Oh my goodness. Talk about steroidal results in a good type of way. So again, the moral of the story here is not become a dental hygienist. The moral of the story here is be smart about things. Consider maybe a 2-year degree. And if nothing floats your boat there, that's fine. I'm not saying that's the way you have to go. I'm just saying don't look at 2-year to a trade school learning. No, I need to go to some 4-year prestigious university. Okay. And these are the numbers. This is the math. If you don't believe me because you think I'm manipulating the numbers, then all I will say to you is the internet is your oyster. Go check out things on your own if you think I'm manipulating the numbers. I have been as conservative as possible in favor of some of these supposed myths out there, and the numbers continue to expose them as simply myths. So at the end of the day, if you take away one thing from this, don't fall for those illusions. Don't fall for those myths, because the biggest way to overcome a lot of those, smile, give somebody a firm handshake, and just, I should have probably said show up on time too, right? Show up on time, and that is going to go a very, very long way. So smile, shake their hand, show up on time, look them in the eye, dress properly, do a little bit of research, get out there and work. And this is not rocket science, but I want you to realize that wrong choices here can lead to really, really, longer term effects that will stay around for a very long time and will cripple your potential at building wealth, at building freedom, at building a legacy. And, that is not what you want. So learn from me. I had that big old regret. And when I say big, literally my $1 million mistake, and you saw how the math works out. That's not an exaggeration. Well, sorry, $905,000 mistake. Just let me round up to $1 million, okay? So don't be like me. Just, if I could go back and do it again, you've seen how I would do it. And it truly is not my opinion. These are mathematical facts talking to us here. So it's really just a question of, are you listening to the math, or are you listening to the, I want an experience? Trust me, the experience, you can get just as good of one by going a much more cost-effective route. So yes, please work smarter, not harder.
So now you have my official thoughts on the college process and how you should go about things. I talked about my $1 million mistake. I don't want you to make a $1 million mistake. I mean, think about it. The money you can be saving, you could be investing into the markets, and the way compounding interest works and all that, 20, 30, 40 years later, I mean, the amounts add up in a crazy, crazy way. Like I said, and like I showed you, for me, $1 million mistake by, making some of the choices that I did. And I still regret it. And if I can even affect just and help one person out by learning from that, then my job has been completed. So I hopefully you found this helpful. If you did find this whole series helpful, do me a favor, hit that like button, share the video, because like I said, I can sit here and gripe and complain about the education system and how it's setting kids up for failure. But there's only so much that, griping is one thing, but trying to do and provide a solution is a whole nother thing, which is the whole point of me just putting these videos out there for free on YouTube, is so that it can hopefully help some people out. So yeah, share these videos if you found it helpful, hit that like button. And like I said, maybe if you share it, maybe somebody sees it, and then you play a role in really changing their life where they don't have to deal with the student loan debt, in the way a lot of people do. So like I said, hit that like button, share the video, comments, questions, suggestions, or anything like that, leave those down below. I would love to hear from you. But thanks for giving me a chance to talk some personal finance with you, and hopefully maybe changing somebody's life and putting them on a little bit more efficient life path. First off, thanks so much for watching the entire video. Real quick, before you go, I want to invite you to a live webinar, web class, training, workshop, online event, whatever you want to call it, but it will be me live revealing to you what I've discovered that has allowed me to transform myself from being an employee to being my own boss, including how I had only one losing day out of 73 days in total. I'm going to cover 3 keys that have helped me unlock profitable consistency within the markets. The first key is super weird, but in a productive type of way. The second key is super awesome because it quite literally is wired into our DNA as humans, making it very easy to use. But in a cruel way, this becomes a pitfall for many traders. I'll explain it all though, including how to avoid the pitfall that it creates for some. And yeah, the third key, when you hear it, sounds way too good to be true, but it's not, and I'll show you how it all works. Then at the end, I open it up for a question and answer session that is, again, totally live. Even if you can't make the live session, please still sign up as it will be recorded, and you can go back and watch the replay that I will send you. Click the image on the screen or click the link down in the description box so you can get the date and time and claim your spot, which I should note is limited due to the fact that this truly is a live event. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll be seeing you soon.